first celebrity you met? Even if like now you look back and you're like, that's not a real celebrity, but like at the time, like you were impressed.
The first one, this won't mean anything to you, but his name's Ira Joe Fisher. He was the local weatherman, and and his big claim to fame was, he didn't have a weather map or anything like that. He like did the weather in front of like plate glass, and he would draw, like it's going to be cloudy, and he would draw the angry cloud with the rain and all that sort of thing, and that was kind of his shtick, which was low tech even for the late 70s, early 80s, obviously, but that's kind of what he was known for. And when I met him, like I was genuinely impressed.
Where did you meet him?
I was probably about 4 or 5, and I went to my class went to visit Santa Claus, I guess.
Back when you could still do that?
Right, yeah.
Now it'd be like, oh, we're gonna go meet the man in the red suit with the beard.
No, I mean they could still say Santa Claus, I think, but
and you'd be like, oh, that pedophile over there in the van?
Right, yeah. That's a bad touch. Well, I mean, that was actually like a good experience across the board, because when I was like 4 or 5,
sometimes is a good experience.
Right, yeah, but it taught me a lot, about Easter. I don't know why, but I had really long hair, even at that age. And when I went up to meet Santa Claus, he asked me if I'd been a good little girl this year, and I was just like, I suspect bullshit. This whole operation is suspect. So I learned a lot, and then I met Ira Joe Fisher, and I said I was Ira Joe Fisher, and he shook my hand, and I said,
it's gonna be cloudy, dude.
I was just like, we watch you draw pictures on the TV, and he said something about how he has to write and draw everything backwards.
Sure.
Because it was on glass, in order for
he's a wizard.
And I was just like, this guy is really talented, and I'm still kind of impressed with that, quite frankly. I don't see anybody else, any other weather people doing that.
No. It's kind of a lost art.
Who was the first celebrity you met?
The dark black lost art of Ira Joe Fisher.
Right. Yeah.
I believe that's the name of Porkopolis,
Right.
The Les Claypool project.
Maybe.
First celebrity I met. Boy, I don't know. We had a music teacher who ran for like, oh, holy crap! Did you see that?
Some sort of from the Mesozoic era.
A pterodactyl just came flying into the picture. I don't know if you guys saw that. My music teacher, my elementary school music teacher, ran for like city councilor or assembly person or dog catcher or something, and I remember being quite impressed by that at the time. Because her name was in the paper or something like that, and you're like, oh, it must be famous. Name's in the paper. I've since learned now that your name in the paper means you got pulled over for a DUI
or you were an eyewitness to the tornado.
Right. Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Generally, I would say that meeting celebrities is sort of an empty experience.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a handful of times where I've met somebody that I previously admired for whatever they did, and I was just like, that went really well. But more often than not, it's just kind of like,
they're just regular.
Kind of a regular person, right? Yeah. And sometimes I end up, it ends up not that it necessarily goes poorly, but I mean, like just as an example, like I met Tommy Victor, Prong, during the time. I mean, I'm still a big Prong fan, but I was an enormous Prong fan at the time, and if you've ever even seen a picture of Tommy Victor, you could probably imagine, like, this guy's probably kind of gruff, and indeed he is,
My offer of a daisy was soundly rejected.
Right. Well, they were having this in an in-store at like a local record shop in Cincinnati, and it wasn't like they were sitting in a booth and they had their press people or anything. It was just the dudes in Prong hanging out before the show, and I was just going to go to the show. And some friends of mine who were skaters, there were these stickers inside this Thrasher magazine, or one of those skate magazines, and one was a Prong sticker. And he was like, "You're a Prong fan, right?" And I was like, "Shit, yeah, I am." And he gave it to me, and I brought it to those guys to get it signed. I mean, I'm not really into autographs, so I was like, "Hey, I got this Prong sticker.
What else can I do with it?"
Right. So I took it, and and Ted Parsons signed it, and Troy, I can't remember. The guy was playing bass and at the time. He signed it, and I brought it to Tommy. He's like, "What the fuck is this? Is this bootleg?" And I'm like, oh man.
Bootleg sticker.
I was like, seriously?
Yeah, I've got a Chinese connection.
Right, you know, and and I was just like, a friend of mine got that at Fashion Magazine. Did you not approve that? And he was like, I don't remember approving any sticker. Well, whatever, dude. You know, I was like, thanks. You know, and then they proceeded to, you know, do a great show. But it was just kind of a, you know, I was like, what did I expect to happen? You know, I mean, this is like, you know, hey, dude, cool. Why don't you hang out with us? You know, be a prog roadie, you know, whatever. You know.
Do you like to play guitar too?
Yeah, right. We could really use a second. You know. You know, and then I was accidentally rude to Acid Bath. You know, like, because Acid Bath's first album came out, Like Ice String Pops, which I absolutely love. And to this day, I think it's one of the greatest albums ever. But there was no picture of them inside. I had no idea what they looked like. And they came to town, and they were playing at Top Cats, which is this little hole in the wall in Cincinnati, and there was like 15 people there.
So they played the Natty. They didn't play Covington.
No, they played in Cincinnati. And I had this black leather jacket at the time. I still have it, and it had like all my favorite bands kind of painted on it. It was Down, it was Machine Head, it was Sepultura, and I had this Acid Bath with like this Gacy skull, the John Wayne Gacy skull, was on the album, and it was painted on. And these guys kept coming up to me all throughout the show, and there was like 5 opening acts and all this stuff. And it was like, even if all the opening acts brought all their friends, it was not enough people there to, you know. And these guys kept just like, man, your jacket is so cool, painted that for you. And I was just like, you know, whatever. You know, don't bother me. I'm drinking by myself. You know, and every time I look over, they'd be like flashing me the horns, and I'm like, okay, you know. And
did you think at that point they were mocking you?
Well, yeah, you know, it's something. You know, it was just like, yeah, it wasn't, but it dawned on me at some point. I was just like, those guys are all hanging out together, and they keep coming up and talking to me one by one, asking me specifically about that part of my jacket. Are those guys Acid Bath? Because if they are, I could have been a lot nicer. You know, I could have at least told them how much I enjoyed their album or something. But I was just like, beak, you know, you will not bother Nathan, you know. And then of course, sure enough, they got up on stage and played, you know, and they played an amazing show. And I was just like, you know, I mean, I was even ruder than I normally am. I mean, if somebody comes up to me to talk in a bar, even if I don't know you, I'm like, yeah.
Did you try to talk to him?
I did.
After that?
Yeah, I went up and talked to him, and you know, and I don't remember, you know, because they were perfectly nice.
The jacket.
Right, I was just like, remember me? You know, I was rude to you earlier.
You were admiring my fine leather jacket earlier.
Right, yeah.
I should like to thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess I was well with as well. But that was one of those where I was just like, being kind of a douchebag. You know, I mean, it was like while it was going on.